The 22-member squad of the 1990 FIFA World Cup gets the keys to the houses offered them by President Paul Biya in recognition of their heroic performance in a colorful event in Yaoundé today. The universal health coverage in Cameroon to provide quality and accessible services to the population will soon go operational. A public-private partnership supervised by Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey is signed in Yaoundé. The southern beaches of the naval base in Dwala, a perfect escape for tourists and leisure lovers. An abundance of seafood and freshness to be enjoyed in this newscast on our Discovery slots. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Those were the headlines of the 7:30 news. We are sorry for the late start.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
The 1990 FIFA World Cup have been honored and are now in possession of the keys to the houses offered them by the head of state, Paul Biya, at an event co-presided over by the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestine Kecha-Cotes, and the Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Professor Narcisse Muele-Kombi. The 22-member squad, 10 of whom were physically present, expressed gratitude to the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, for a promise fulfilled. Romeo Nkenyi has the details.
We have got the key today, and I want to sincerely thank the head of state of what he has done. I had a house before, and this one is for my children, probably for my grandchildren also.
Speaking during the occasion, Ministers Kecha-Cotes and Narcisse Muele-Kombi lauded the effort of the retired Lions while urging the younger generation to emulate their example. They equally used the moment to pay tribute to late Captain Stephen Tato.
This is the call to Cameroonian that only war can pay.
The ceremony was also rich in sound and rhythms.
Apologize to have breached that report from the start. In other news, over 160 children have been off the streets by the Ministry of Social Affairs as part of efforts to protect vulnerable groups from the COVID-19 pandemic. This information was given today during the weekly interministerial meeting to monitor government strategy against the coronavirus. The virtual meeting chaired by Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey also evaluated negotiations towards the readmission of Cameroonian travelers into the European Union. Staff building correspondent Christian Chiatam has the details.
One of the main points of the interministerial meeting, coordinated by Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey, was to evaluate actions taken to protect vulnerable groups in Cameroon from COVID-19 contamination. The Minister of Social Affairs said her department has been keen on education and information.
As far as street children are concerned, we started an operation on the 1st of April to extract them from the street. And for us, it was a successful operation because in total we had like 162 children that we extracted from the street. For the elder, we tried to distribute these sanitary kits for them to be protected.
The session also examined ongoing negotiations to have Cameroonians readmitted into the list of travelers allowed into the European Union. The Minister of External Relations said the negotiations continue. Latest statistics on COVID-19 presented during the session indicate that Cameroon now counts a cumulative number of 19,142 positive cases, with 17,651 of them already declared healed and 411 deaths. The Prime Minister has called for an intensification of efforts to protect vulnerable groups in the country. The Prime Minister further says on the instructions of the head of state, communication around COVID-19 must be intensified.
Flood victims in Idea and in Dwala in the littoral region and in Sancho in the west region are struggling to survive with the relief items donated by the head of state, Paul Biya. The assistance was handed over by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, who has ended the visit to the affected areas. Ebenezer Akanga has a balance sheet of the outing.
The visit started in Idea, where the Minister of Territorial Administration handed relief packages from the presidential couple to flood victims of the town. From Idea, Paul Atanganji went to Dwala, where he first held a working session with administrative and municipal authorities, as well as officials of defense and security forces of the economic capital.
We are here today on esteemed instructions of President Paul Biya, who was asked my humble person to come and assist the local population after the floods registered in this town.
He then proceeded to hand relief items to flood victims in the Dwala 5 and 3 council areas in 2 separate ceremonies. The last stop was in Sangchu, in Menua division of the West region, where 185 families have been affected. Be it in Idea, Dwala or Sangchu, the minister told the flood victims that the assistance shows the concern of the head of state to all Cameroonians. The flood victims, on their part, expressed gratitude to the head of state for the prompt assistance.
In diplomacy, a senior official of the Chinese military corporation, Colonel Chia Jiang, has been decorated as Knight of the Order of Valor at the end of his mission as defense attaché to Cameroon. This was at a ceremony presided over by the minister delegates in charge of defense at the presidency of the Republic, Joseph Betiasomo, today in Yaoundé. He was acknowledged by the head of state after 4 years fortifying military relations between Cameroon and China. Constantine Baum tells us more.
He leaves Cameroon very fulfilled as a man who has completed his mission recognized by the host country, Cameroon.
Atmosphere of friendship between China and Cameroon. The working relationship between our two militaries are also very good. I'm glad during my term of mission in Cameroon, the cooperation and exchange programs between our two militaries are very rich and very fruitful.
That is why the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, signed a decree on August 12, 2020 for Senior Colonel Chia Jiang to be awarded the Medal of Knight of the Order of Valor.
You shall be remembered as an experienced senior officer, calm, level-headed, highly cultured, and with an advanced courtesy.
He has come to the end of his mission living with his head high as a good friend who has represented his country well in military ties.
Teams from the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism have called at 3 ministries to follow up on the implementation of the law that promotes the equal use of official languages in Cameroon. The separate missions were at the Ministries of Arts and Culture, Decentralization and Local Developments, as well as Labour and Social Security. Beatrice Law-Samba reports that there is still much to be done as far as serving the population in the language of their choice is concerned.
The moving train of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism stopped at the doorstep of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security for proof of effective equal use of English and French. Some miles walked in grooming bilingual staff, yet some obstacles to be removed.
I had to draw a particular attention to the Caisse Nationale pour la Prévoyance Sociale. In the Northwest and Southwest, most of the documents are in French. I would need to say that those documents have to go to them in the language of the users.
The Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development opened its doors to another team from the Commission and opened up about its commitment to reinforcing the translation unit.
What we do is we collect information, collect also challenges, problems, issues, and we transmit them to the President of the Republic.
The Ministry of Arts and Cultures is not just about promoting 2 languages, but cultures linked to them.
We are at the beginning of our visit, but we think that what we have seen is correct.
The Commission's follow-up mission in ministries is guided by the fact that these ministries are to set the pace in implementing the law on bilingualism 9 months after it was passed.
Framework of the public-private partnership. Prime Minister Joseph John Gute, who presided at the signing ceremony, said the universal health coverage is a project which is dear to the President of the Republic and will usher a new era of health care in Cameroon.
Economic operators in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, have begun brainstorming on how to give visibility to the Made in Cameroon brand amidst the prevailing health crisis. Two groups, known as Jaba Space and Tous Bâtisseurs, deliberated on encouraging innovation and creating an enabling environment. Romeo Kenyi reports that the session was moderated by a member of Jaba Space, JC Happy Ndongo.
These entrepreneurs, drawn from all walks of life, have gathered to brainstorm on how made in Cameroon can be given the visibility it deserves in the midst of the health crisis. The sittings have been codenamed Corollars Exchanges.
Is really to look forward to a relaunch or to an acceleration of our economy. The crisis had everything on hold. We took time to think, but before we get back to action or fully back to action, it's important that we take a minute to ask ourselves, what just happened?
This initiative is that of two youth groups, Jaba Space and Tous Bâtisseurs.
Agroalimentation, we could go deep into that and do more production.
Similar discussions took place lately in Dwala.
The reality is that everybody has a piece of the puzzle, and when we host the talks, it brings people together and we complete what we have to say from north to south, from east to west.
In November, they intend organizing a forum with JICAM.
In our Thursday special reports, we zoom in on fish farming in the West region, which is gradually gaining grounds. The increase in demand for fresh saltwater fish, which is yet to meet supply, has prompted the youth to take up the activity, which is a source of wealth creation. Shansley Nanze tells us more from the West.
The West region is fondly referred to as the breadbasket of Cameroon. This recognition doesn't only end at the level of the production of foodstuff, but it has extended to the supply of fish in recent years, given that the population is gradually diving into fish farming.
We can have about 400 fishermen and maybe 700 fish ponds. These private fishermen produce about 150 tons per year in our region.
It has become a source of livelihood to those who have ventured into fish production, be they common initiative groups or individuals.
We have about 1,000 of tilapia fish that we grow, and then we sell it.
Despite the increase in local fish supply, demand seems to be ever increasing. Thus, the immediate challenge of fish farmers who desire to supply table fish to the entire Central African sub-region in the near future remains meeting up with the constant increase in the demand for fish locally.
Fish production in the West region is mostly practiced in marshy areas, while others are opting for ponds and tents. The largest of such crater ponds is found in the division. In the following report, Hananjong looks at how the farmers are faring and what their challenges are.
The owners of the fish farms are as diverse as the species of fish they grow. Most of them operate within common initiative groups, although there are some individual mastodons. Amongst the about 20 farms funded is that of the paramount chief of Batu Farm. Over in the Day Division, the success of the Siab Fish Farm, run by the Siab Agri Consortium, has given rise to even more ambitious business ideas.
The fish farm, we have like 3 lakes, 3 big lakes. We fish inside. But let's say this one is like 5 hectares, and this is the one where we're doing the business, or we're doing really the production coming from this lake, which is about roughly 5 hectares.
By the look of things, fish farming may just be one of the answers to Cameroon's prayer against hunger and poverty.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
19,142 persons have so far been infected with the coronavirus in Cameroon. Health experts warn that the figures might increase if the population continues to ignore the preventive measures prescribed by governments. Tonight, we look at how vulnerable asthmatic patients can be to the virus. We shall have answers with Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Jean-Baptiste Bonnier, who are at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Esther Kmer. 6 months after the first COVID-19 case was confirmed in Cameroon, so far this evening, the figures are as follows. We have 19,142 persons who have been tested positive for COVID-19. We have had 17,651 Cameroonians who have recovered from the coronavirus. And so far in Cameroon, we have had 411 persons who have died of COVID-19. And we have had so far a recovery rate that stands at 92.2% with 1,080 active cases we have in Cameroon presently. That's to say, persons living with the virus. But how vulnerable are asthmatic patients to the coronavirus? That is what we shall be discussing tonight with our guest, Dr. Jean-Baptiste Bonnier, who is a pediatrician. Good evening, doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Everest.
Tell us, doctor, how vulnerable are asthmatic patients to this deadly virus, the coronavirus?
Okay. I must say that the asthmatic patients are not vulnerable as we think about coronavirus. Children suffering from asthma, children and adolescents suffering from asthma are not vulnerable to COVID-19 because, you know, it was a fear at the beginning of the pandemic. But by now, studies that have been published have shown that there is nothing to be worried about.
And what measures should they take in order for them to avoid any possible infection to the virus?
Okay, as concerning prevention, we must address both diseases, okay, COVID-19 and asthma. As concerning COVID-19, we must address the barrier measures that have been put in place by the WHO and our government. And concerning asthma, we must prevent the allergens, outdoor allergen and indoor allergen. We must prevent children from passive or active smoking. And when the child with asthma has a worsening condition, you must rush at an emergency department.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jean-Baptiste Bonnier. You are a pediatrician, asthmatic patients, and any other Cameroonian. They should simply continue respecting all these outlined measures by the government to limit the spread of the virus. And public health experts this evening use the opportunity to express satisfaction with this impressive recovery rate in Cameroon, 92.2% in terms of a recovery rate. And we remind our viewers that 6 months after the first case was confirmed, we have 19,142 persons tested positive for COVID-19, with 17,651 Cameroonians who have recovered from COVID-19, with 411 persons who have died of this deadly virus in Cameroon. Back to you, Esther Kmer.
Thanks very much, Baldwin Sama, for those assurances that asthmatic patients are not as vulnerable as we think. They simply just have to apply and to respect the barrier measures that all of us who are not asthmatic are experiencing. Now, let's talk about holidays. We take you to a small locality in Villa Division of the South region known as Mvam-Yetom. It is famous for an ancient fishing technique known in the local language as Adwa. This fishing technique has for over the years been disappearing, but fishermen are now using the long holiday period to initiate as many youth as possible. Details with Pontianos Lawong.
Mvam-Yetom, a small locality on the outskirts of Ebolova, is famous for fishing activity, and more so, an ancient fishing technique known in the local Bulu language as the Adwa. Fishermen construct funnel-shaped traps out of Indian bamboo, which they sink deep into the river Mvila for 4 to 6 days, expecting a great catch, an age-old technique characterized by restrictions.
The Adwa fishing technique arrived here thanks to the grandmother of her father, who was a Gabonese. Certain rules are to be respected before going for the fishing. In order to have a good catch, one has to avoid sexual intercourse and dishes like the bush mango soup or okra.
This fishing technique is already threatened by extinction, and the elderly have been using the extra long holiday period to initiate many young people for posterity. I am using the holiday period to learn the Adwa fishing technique. When I will grow older, I will become a fisherman. The little ones who cannot yet risk the depth of the river Mvila occupy themselves either by transporting the catch home or by marketing the fish around the village as they wait to take the relay button.
The weekend is around the corner and you just might want to have a feel of the sea. The beach of the naval base in Dwala is an ideal destination. The picturesque site is perfect for excursions and picnics, and lovers of seafood have quite enough to relish. Scholar Maloke now walks us through this tourist destination.
This part of town is well known for hosting the military naval base, but apart from it, the seaside serves as a relaxation point for many.
In fact, this is a good place to be, so I will wish to invite anybody who wants to come down here and feel the cold breeze of this area. It's so natural, so brain relaxing. When you're here, you can think well.
I just like the fresh air and the view around the sea because it gives me a refreshing memory to start my day and being calm, to think a lot of things.
I'm too stressed up, I come here to relax. Then when I also have friends, especially friends who come in town for their first time.
There is never a time that you would come here and meet no one, just sitting and admiring the waves or taking pictures.
Where we're on break, we always love to come here, we stroll, take pictures.
This place is calm, the scenery is nice, it makes one feel happy and forget the stress. You know, when I come here during break, I just feel relaxed and get rid of my stress and get energized to continue work after break.
In addition to the seaside breeze, this area is lined up with restaurants like this to cater for the nutritional needs of visitors. With a floating bridge where one can sit and serve fresh roasted fish, the beach at the Dwala Naval Base is certainly a place to visit whenever you find yourself in the economic capital, Dwala.
Over 400 bags of rice smuggled into the North region, as well as unauthorized vehicles and motorcycles, have been impounded. The operation was jointly carried out by security forces and custom officials bent on beating crime in the 3 northern regions of the country. Wilson Mengole has the details.
After a well-coordinated operation with support from the 3rd Combined Military Region, the North Customs Sector seized a truck in Garwawindi carrying over 400 bags of rice en route to a neighboring country. They equally impounded vehicles, motorcycles and material for the manufacture of explosive devices.
It's a mission that has 2 main objectives. The first objective is the fight against smuggling, contraband. That's goods which are introduced into the national territory without passing through the customs offices. So we see these goods, we seize them and bring them here. The second objective is that of goods not authorized to enter the country.
The North Customs Sector is equally tackling smuggling, according to officials, which will go a long way to counter organized crimes within the Adamawa, far north and north regions of the country.
Since we are here, our warehouses are full, but we have about 2,000 bags of rice in Garwa. We are not only in Garwa, we are in Marwa and in Ngandre, so the 3 regions.
Officials of the North Customs Sector say they are determined to contribute to the growth of the country's economy.
All for this edition of the 7:30 News, in which we heard that the 22-member squad of the 1990 FIFA World Cup has gotten the keys to the houses offered them by the head of state, President Paul Biya. At 8:30 p.m., you'll be in the company of Rumia Chwise. Tomorrow at 7:30, Gladys Tata will be here. Thanks for watching. Good night.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing